Hello, everyone. My name is Calvin, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, guys. It's good to be here. I'm telling you, it's good to be anywhere sober. And as no, thank you, Robbie, and thank you, Alice. What a powerful, powerful message. I really got so much out of both of you guys, and I'm excited to hear the other two speakers who's coming after me. And I've been around this program since July 26, 1986. It's just interesting. And as I come here, and I come from a family of the baby boy, and I was my oldest brother is 15 years older than me. Next brother's 9. Then it was me. I'm the baby. I'm the youngest, and so I was raised like I was spoiled. I had opportunity to go to private school, every option. All I wanted to do was go downtown where everything was happening. That's what I wanted to do. I was maladjusted right through the door. I always felt like the square peg in a round hole all my life. And it's just interesting, and the drink actually, when I drank at first, it wasn't my problem. It was actually my solution. I couldn't see that when I started doing, because due to the fact that I had all these noises in my head that never would stop. I always felt that I didn't fit in. I was the last guy picked for the baseball team. I always felt this maladjustment, always felt out of the loop, right? And what happened was I met, and I had sticky fingers. So I would like to, take things that wasn't mine, preferably the neighbor's car, right? And so I would always do this stuff, right? And I'm 15 years old, and my parents got a 1964 Chevy that's 4 years old. I got a 1968, 66 Super Sport that's 2 years old, and I'm 15 years old. Anything to try to stop me from bothering other people's stuff my parents tried to do for me, because I was like only child. And for Black folk, we were doing pretty well. And so they gave me everything financially to make me stop, and I wouldn't, because that a maladjustment. And plus, you add on top of maladjustment a ton of selfishness, a ton of selfishness. Now, this is without drinking nothing, not drinking nothing. And so what made me stop, I was on probation from 13 to 17 years old. And when I was on probation, about 16, I met this little girl in school, in high school. And we stayed together and had a child and got married. But before that, the probation officer told me something, right? He said, "You're a pretty good kid." He said, "But you need to get a job because you need something to do with your time." So I went to all these little places. I just wanted a little part-time job. So I went to this Fortune 500 company, and they hired me, and I stayed there 39 years. And I should have been fired many, many times. God has always had his hand on me. Always I've been guided by some force. I could not see it. I could not see it. My self-centeredness blocked me and blinded me to seeing that I always walked in some kind of grace. Always. Or I would have not been on the planet. I would not be, and that little girl just loved me to death. We were young, and we had a kid. His name is Calvin. He's 50 years old now. And all I wanted to do is just run with the fellas, party all night, do what I do. We had everything financially. We worked for the same company. We ended up working, we had everything. One day the girl she said, she would go back to her parents, come back to me, back and forth. One day she left. And she met somebody else. And my little heart couldn't take that, right? Just couldn't take that. And that started, and I after she came back, then I just left. Because all I wanted to do was come back so I can go somewhere else. Because you can't, I was real vindictive. And when that happened, and all the smoke had cleared from all that crazy living, I found alcohol. 21 years old. Never drink a drop of alcohol, basically. Smoked a little pot, but never drink. And I ain't like pot, made me paranoid after one. When I took that first drink, it gave me an ease and comfort that I never felt before. I didn't care what you thought of me. I could go talk to anybody. I felt like it. I felt whole. I felt whole until eventually it turned and cut me to pieces. I drank 10 cold, hard years. And I went to a treatment center, and I went there the first time in 1985. And I knew nothing of alcoholism. I could run to this treatment center. you know, and I'm so full of myself. I'm so full of my own plans and ideas. I didn't hear a word around recovery everywhere. Can't hear a word. When I got back there a year later, or 8 or 9 months later, I sat in the front. I knew I was going to die if I didn't. And I came in Alcoholics Anonymous when I did what I told when I got out of there. But me, the smart guy that I think I am, I knew I had a fortune. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I knew I could make a lot of money. And I always figured that everything for me was external, nothing internal, everything external. So I bought a new Corvette, new Jeep, new boat, wearing running 3-4 miles a day, bench pressing 300 pounds, built up really well, right? Because everything's external, no internal, everything external. You know, I go and I always say this, right? I said, I like Gucci on the outside and Kmart on the inside, right? You know, what I mean? Now it's the reverse. You know what I mean? You know, I'm more, Gucci on the inside and Kmart on the outside, you know? But I was just thinking how. Then when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and I got to when I'm 2 years sober and I got worse than Alcoholics Anonymous. Now physically I got a lot better. Physically I got a lot better. But emotionally and spiritually I got worse. And what it was, I could dress it up now, you know what I mean? Because now I'm not stumbling around and I'm not passing out. So now if I want to hurt you, I can really put focus on what the damage to do. You know what I mean? Because now I haven't changed inside, nothing. I just put away a drink. Drink is gone. Drink ain't no more. Drink is nowhere around me. No drug around me, no drink around me. So you got the same thing that was here when I was 15 or 16 years old. You got the same thing. You know, and I remember some people told me inside Alcoholics Anonymous, to start doing some things. And I started going to conventions. I want to see what time it is. Start getting involved and start making coffee in groups and start fellowshipping. I felt the power of this fellowship, which is great stuff. I felt the strength of this fellowship, man. Oh my God. But the fellowship won't bring you across that bridge. It just will not bring you across that bridge. So what happened to me is that in 1992, 30 years ago in March, I went to see Joe and Charlie. We used to go to meetings and we'd go to a big book meeting or a step meeting, and we go there and we read the step, we read the big book and talk about whatever we want. We discuss daily problems. But we was all crazy together, so we didn't know no better. We just a crazy lot, right? But we held on to each other. But in 1992, I went to Frostburg Mountain. I met Joe and Charlie for the first time. And it was like I met Moses. Like I had been to the mountaintop or something. I heard a form of recovery that I had never heard before. And I heard people talking about how to work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I came back to my little town. Nobody talked about it like this. Nobody talked about it. There was no big book talk. Big book had went to a dark place for us where I lived at. It wasn't a dark place. It was just don't drink, go to meetings. That's it. And listen to the old timers. That's all we had. That's what we had. And I'm not banging them because due to the fact that Rob, if Adam was here, he would talk about this, right? And he said, if you don't like old timers, don't worry, you won't be one. That's what Adam says, not me. So, I come here off the shoulders of giants. They kept the door open and the light on and a hot cup of coffee. And they told me to sit down, have a seat, and take the cotton out of my ears and put it in my mouth and shut up, which was probably about the best thing for me at that time. But when I found Joe and Charlie, they was talking a whole nother talk. They were talking about something I never heard before now. They was talking about getting better spiritually, totally. They was talking about things that I heard things in there. I was cleaning my garage out maybe about a couple of months ago, and I found a book with Joe and Charlie signed it in March 26th of 1992. I found the book in my garage. So I was running around here and I'm taking people to Richmond. Joe and Charlie in Richmond, get a carload of people, we're going to Richmond. They in Frostburg, they down in Philadelphia, we're going to Philadelphia. They in New York, we're going to New York. Now it's starting to take off. Me and Lana started a group in New Brunswick, and we started a group in our town. But I was working and building a life from, bought a house. Who would have thought? So I kind of was hitting and missing. Going to my meetings, but I'm not plugged in like I should be. I'm in the meetings and I'm going to a lot of meetings and I'm going to retreats. I'm doing all that, but I'm not really plugged in. And plus I didn't got to sponsor a lot of people, and I'm thinking I'm doing the deal. And I didn't fell asleep at the wheel. I didn't fell asleep at the wheel. So I stay here and I'm thinking I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Because I got this Joe and Charlie thing going on. I got these tapes and all this other stuff, you know? And I'm going around the big book groups because I'm looking for, I'm looking to plug in. I'm looking to plug in somewhere. And they were like me when I got it and I came back to my little town. They was using it like a hammer. If you ain't doing it this way, you're just gonna catch on fire and blow up. And that wasn't attractive to me. That was not attractive at this time. And I went to a group maybe about 10, 12 years ago down called Design for a Living. I'm 24, 25 years old or something, long time. And I went down there and I plugged in with these guys down there, and they was talking different about Alcoholics Anonymous. They wasn't beating me in the head, but beating me in the head with the book. They was love and service with this thing. And I went in and I had about 25 years at the time. There was young folks in there that was on fire, and I had fell asleep on my sponsor's throne. I fell asleep so hard I was up there slobbering. And I knew if I don't get back on this thing, God wanted me well. He wanted me well because I was broken. I was broken right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. And every one of us have an opportunity to go to sleep right here if we're not careful. And I got Jimmy to take me back through the steps. Jimmy took me back through the steps, and I caught back on fire. I caught back on fire. Lana used to go down there with me. She was like, I'm not doing that no more, right? She wouldn't ride. We ride every Sunday. Now, from where we live at to down there in Neptune, where they're at, it's almost 30 miles one way. And we would ride that. We watched so many seasons change riding that road when she got back in the car with me. And she got a sponsor down there, and she caught back on fire. And I've been really doing this thing. We started a group around this way, man. And my life has changed dramatically in Alcoholics Anonymous with a lot of time. I'm going to talk about more so going to sleep right here. I'm talking about damage I can do right here. I'm going to talk about what I did to my oldest son, my stepson, right here. I'm 3 years sober, and my stepson threw something at me and ran from me because he knew how I was as a drunk. Now I'm a couple of years sober, but I'm putting it this way: I'm a couple of years without a drink. I grabbed his mother and picked her up, and said, "Come on, save her." Who does that in a sane way? Who does that? Now I'm not drinking nothing. So if not drinking was the answer, I sure didn't have it. But through the step process and through going through them steps with Jimmy and going through them steps and working it, I had the opportunity to fix all these wrong through this 8th and 9th step process. When I was talking about that God's deep down in every man, woman, and child, and he is, I think about that in a way that I think about like the treasure map we're talking about here, right? When God said, "Well, we'll hide this treasure up on the top of our highest mountain. He won't look for it there." He said, "No, he'll search and he'll climb and find it." He said, "I'll put it down at the bottom of this treasure, down at the bottom of the sea." He said, "No, he'll go and he'll swim and he'll get to it." He said, "Well, I'll stick it inside him. He'll never look there." And that's where the treasure lies at. And that's where it's at. Deep down in every man, woman, and child, the fundamental idea of God is there. And as I start to get this stuff up off top of me, I always talked about it really well. As I start to remove this stuff, I start to feel the freedom. And that power that's deep down in every one of us starts to show. And people respond to us totally different. I start to feel the love of Alcoholics Anonymous. I start to feel the love of people. And I believe that my connection with God is the same connection I have with you. They're not different. How can I say I dislike you and say I love God, I care for God, and God's working in my life? How does that work? It doesn't. It doesn't. You know, I found that, if I keep coming, and I want to talk about my children a little bit. When I came here, I was estranged from my children. I got 7 kids and 11 grandkids and 2 great grandkids. When my oldest son got married, Calvin got married, I was the best man at his wedding because his dad showed up in a different way because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and this roadmap that I've taken to get healthier and wholesome as a man. And he sees his dad as a man. And when he graduated Rutgers University, I think he was about 30 years old, he got a bachelor's degree, and we was all out at Red Lobster, wherever the hell, Lobster House somewhere. And it was my first wife, it was Lana, my second wife, my wife, and my mother-in-laws, and we was at Cal, and all these people sitting around getting along because of the healing that takes place through the transformation of this book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Me and my son walking across that parking lot when we going back to the car, and he tells me, he said, Daddy, he said, a lot of black men walk crooked because they don't have a man in their life. He said, I walk straight up because of you. My oldest daughter, Deborah, my oldest daughter. Deborah ain't never liked me. She was totally, I don't like you, dude. You know what I mean? She just ain't never liked me. She my baby. She ain't never liked me. She said, I don't like you. And she was just, and it was because I wasn't with her mother, and that wasn't going to happen. So it was just that wasn't going to get better. Then one day, and she close to her, one day she called me. She said, Daddy, 9 to 10 years ago, she said, I'm suffering from the disease of alcoholism. Can you help me? Can you help me? And I said, yes, baby, I can help you. I said, she lives in Pennsylvania. And I told her, I said, go to the hospital. But I know I can't get over there. I said, go to the hospital. And she said, Daddy, she did that. She said, nothing happened because I wanted to get into detox or something. And she said, so I said, go to a meeting at lunchtime and tell them women in AA what you told me. And she did that. And that night, her husband said, I want you out when you get home. And she walked for me that night. I knew she was on her way. This girl's in Alcoholics Anonymous 9 years now. And she done caught on fire. And we talk all the time. And actually, she done made more money than my whole family put together. She started her own business and took off. And things just worked out for her like that. And the spiritual world by going back, making amends and financial amends and being in the book. Because she asked me, Daddy, what are you doing? I said, be about this journey. Be about this path. And she got a sponsor who showed her how to work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she caught on fire. And my grandkids' life changed. Her husband's life is better. And she told me the other day, they was maybe about 6 months ago, her and her husband was riding, going to New York, going to a show. And he said they would sit riding in the truck and Jeep and whatever they got there. And she said, he looked at her, he said, I know what it is to be loved now. He said, I know what it is to feel loved. We come here and it's like the ripple effect, right? And when I was out there, I was a bad ripple, Now the ripple effect is totally different. Totally different. A man told me early on, right? When me and Lana hooked up, and it was backwards because through the fact that I didn't know how to love myself. And he told me that. Old timer told me, when you ever learn to love yourself? I was a couple years sober, and everything was still external. So I met Lana somewhere. I know the relationship I had, the marriage I had was tore up, and we hooked up. And what happened was she got pregnant. I remember I call her my midwife. She came and told me we was apart. We had been apart a long time. She told me, she said, you've been in the Alcoholics Anonymous program 3 years. And she said, you're still around, son of a bitch. She said, nothing changed. Nothing changed. But that day, because I used to spin her or send her in another direction or whatever. That day, the curtain went up and I could not hide no more. And I broke down and started crying. I asked God that day, you let me live right one more time. I will not do all this craziness. That's over. And I stopped. And I raised my children. And I think about, the mistakes that I've made in recovery, not out there, that drove me back, like Oliver was talking, back to the spirit every time. And now I don't have to go off course as far before I know what to do. Because I think, and like some people just check a box. Oh, I did it, check the box. And I know the book inside out. I know it backwards and forwards. I can tell you page and quote, but I'm not. The bottom line is this is not information, it's transformation. We got to be transformed. I was talking about transformation in Alcoholics Anonymous. I always thought everything was external. It's not, it's internal. My problem's not outside me, it's inside. My mid daughter, she seen the blood of my drinking. She seen me hit my bottom. She watched her dad destroy her mother. He watched her dad destroy the house a lot of times. She watched me. And she still struggled with that. She had cancer. And my midwife died 25, 26 years ago of breast cancer. And I had opportunity because of this program and these steps in this book to make amends and ask her, could she ever forgive me what I've done? She said, Calvin, I've been forgiven because you ain't the man you used to be. I had open heart surgery 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 2000. When I was going for that surgery, and I had to stay in the hospital a month for him just to stabilize him, to do the surgery. An old man had told me when I was sitting in the dark with him, he was dying, one of the heroes I walked up, that I stood on his shoulders. And I would go every night to the hospital to see him and sit with him in the dark, but he couldn't take the light. And he said, Calvin, I took my eye off God and I put it on these doctors. He said, don't ever do that. I was a peewee, I was young and strong back then. But God was preparing me for what I was going to go through one day. And I'm laying in that bed, and the funny part of it, that they put me in the same bed that my midwife died, the same exact bed. And I felt a comfort there because through the fact that I had, not that hospital got to have 3,000 beds in it. I ended up in that same, because I knew exactly where that room at, because I went up there every day. And I felt the ease and comfort there. And I would wake up, because I was the first one up, 5:30 for open heart surgery. And every hour I woke up, it would come to me and I'd say, I'll get a little nervous. And now I remember what that old man told me. He said, keep your eye on God. Don't worry about the surgery and the doctor. You'll take care of yourself. You just worry, keep your eye. And I go back to sleep. So my connection to a God through this big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and the journey through it, and it's steady growing. There's not a destination, it's a total journey. And as I keep traveling this road and keep traveling this path, it's greater, it keeps greater and greater. And sometimes, just because of that, like I always talked about and Robbie talked about, God comes through the wounds, man. God comes through the cracks. So the bottom line is, it ain't always feel good to grow. You know what I'm saying? But I know what it is now. I know when I'm gonna have a sleepless night. I know God's moving me to another place in my life. He's making me grow spiritually. Don't be afraid to feel uncomfortable in this program, because something's working in you. And we're better off for it. I can't duck around my pain. I always did. That's why I end up like acting so childish like as an older man, because I never grew up emotionally. I act like a little kid. You do something, it's all right. My grandson come and stack my medicine bottles up when I'm sitting that over here. He'll do that and he'll do different things. He's 7 years old, right? That's cool. That's great. But it don't look good on a 69-year-old man. No, it don't look good on me. It's okay for him, but it don't look good on me. And I steady got to keep growing and growing no matter how old you are here. And I learn every day from everybody. I learn every day from everybody. I want to talk a little bit about, my next daughter. She's me and Lana's daughter, right? And she's 30 years old. She's the one I told you she got pregnant with. And she's probably, like I always call her, the smartest one of the bunch. She really wears that as a badge of honor. And this girl is super smart. I tell you, man, she's a smart girl. But Lana's a smart girl. Lana's really smart. But also Lana got a big heart. Big heart. And so does Kara. And I've been going to Ocean City, Maryland to a convention, 5,000 people every year in Ocean City, Maryland. I've been taking the kids to their small. We rent a condo on the beach. That's what we did for our vacation. And we've been going every year. Me and Lana go to the convention at night. We used to bring a babysitter with us to watch the kids. And then eventually they got big enough to watch themselves. So this year, all my grandkids, and we go on Ocean City and we're taking them all with us. So I know my daughter's struggling. She got 3 children and she ain't, she's struggling. She take care of herself. She don't want nothing from me. She'll struggle through. So I went up, I filled her car up. I put my Easy Pass in her car. I did whatever I could to make this thing. When me and we got her a place across, because I know they can't stay with me with all them babies, man. That ain't no vacation. That's like torture almost. I love them, but not all, not 24/7. Too old, man. Our prayer and meditation God, So we got her a place, and so Lana took her to the store. Someday we went somewhere and went to the bank, and I gave her some money put in her pocket while she was there, the extra money. And she came a week, 2 weeks later after we got back, and Lana said, "Will you go back later and see your dad?" She said, "No, I want to go by now." She went by and she gave me my $200 back. And she told me, I was up at the top of the stairs, she was down the bottom. She said, "Daddy, I want you to be proud of me. I want you to be proud of me." I always wanted my kids to be proud of me. And now they're asking me, they want just the opposite. The journey of this book is what it's done for me. What it's done for me. I look at how much my parents, and when I first got to alcoholism, my dad, my mom, they didn't they didn't hug me, all this craziness. Oh my God, they did this or they did that, they was this, they wasn't that. You get sober and you stay here. And my brothers have thought the same thing. And you stay here. And all of them gone but me. All of them dead. Both of my brothers, my mother and father. And I had an opportunity to take care of every one of them. To the last breath they all took. You think a coward like me that ran from every responsibility he could stand up and take care of everybody and be fair with whatever's left there to do whatever do, because everything was left going my way. And to be fair and give away everything almost I got. Because that don't what get me. External don't bring me home no more. It don't bring me home no more. So I'm not sitting around trying to rob nobody. My major thing in life, this book has taught me, is to be happy, joyous, and free. And happy, joyous, and free got nothing to do with my external. Somehow I always get enough and always had enough. And how I can see it. I've been given more than the years the locusts have taken from me. And I think about just my life was richer because now I see it through another lens. My mother and my father and my brothers, my life was richer because they was in it. Because they was in it. Now they were flawed and they made mistakes, just like me. Just like me. That is my way. That is my way. I'm gonna bring it up to my baby boy. Now, all of my kids that went to college, even the young got a couple of kids, went to college. All of them got some kind of degree or another. My baby boy, I'm thinking he's gonna do the same thing at 19. He ended up getting in some real trouble. Man, talking about some real trouble. And this thing been going on for 4 or 5 years now. And you talking about God humbling you. You talking about being humbled. And when they arrested him, and he first went to jail, I would go out there and I'll be so scared for him because he ain't no tough guy. And I would go out there and I'll sit in the parking lot of that jail. Now I ain't went to see him in a year and a half. I ain't seen that boy. I ain't seen him, put my eye on him. And I'm close to him. I don't know if I can take him in jail. I don't know if I can take him. It ain't that I ain't scared of him. I don't know what it is. I just can't. But he know I'm there. Apparently, $3,000, $4,000, $30,000 later in lawyers, whatever. But every dollar I paid for lawyers and bails and all that stuff, it was not for him. Thank you. It was not for him. It was for me. I couldn't stand his consequence. I could not stand his consequence. But God wanted me to learn this lesson. So I'm thinking I'm just going to read this book and that's the way it's going to happen. Now, I do it, and I take a lot of people through it. And the greatest thing I do is when I take you through the book and I watch you wake up, it's amazing to see. But you want to live these experiences. You want to live these experiences. Life is lived. You know, and I live a good life. And when they tell you can match calamity with serenity, no doubt. I can sit here and be at peace with no matter what goes on in my life. I'm at peace with my son, and he's at peace. He's finding his own peace. I'm not his God. But the lesson has been great. The lesson's been great. The journey's been sweet. The journey's been sweet. You take a selfish person like me and turn them into a caring person. You know, during the pandemic, you know what I would do? The guys, I see people who got it early on. I would go put food on their porches, do snowstorms, like it's snowing today in New Jersey. And I drop it off on their porches, water, food, go to the store, pick things, drop it off, and don't say nothing. This is the first time I'm really saying something. Don't say it, just do it. That's if I'm here and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. If this book is working, somebody said, I don't know, it was Alice or Robin, but if I'm working, I ain't got to say it. You will see it. I don't care what it's about. Let's say anything. Them feet never lie. The movement of them feet don't lie. Oh, you know, and I'm at there. I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna close this thing up. I hope I did the best I got. And what I want to say is this. There was three guys, two old timers and a newcomer. Took them fishing, right? So they get out in the water a little bit, and one of the old timers said, "Damn, we forgot the lunch on the shore." He got out and he walked across the water, got the lunch, walked back, and sat down in the boat. Newcomer looked at him like, "What the hell?" The other one said, "No, we forgot the tackle. You forgot the tackle box." He got out the boat. He walked across the water, got the tackle box, walked back, and sat down. The newcomer about to explode, right? How did they do this? The newcomer jumped out the boat and sink like a rock. Straight down. The newcomer going back in the boat. They said, let's show this boy where the rocks are at. And that's my job and your job, is to show the newcomer where these rocks are at. You know, so they don't have to drown in the water. Thank you for having me, guys.